Okay, so the next part of our game is we're going to have an enemy spaceship come down from the top of the screen and shoot missiles at your spaceship, which again you will be able to shoot and explode and get out of the way. You'll also be able to shoot the missiles too. So how do we do that? Well, I've set up the sprite and the object with sprite enemy. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have, say, 3 enemies on our room. So we go to our room and we put 3 enemies into our room. Put them right at the top of the screen. Again, we're going to use the same thing as we did with the asteroid, which means they're going to be regenerated at random positions at the top of the room. So, how do we do that? Well, let's have a look. We'll go to our workspace, object enemy. Now, we're going to add an event, and that means to create, and really all we want to do is have them coming down vertically at a speed, let's say of 2, we don't want them too fast. And that should do the job of bringing them down. Right, the second thing we want them to do, this is a bit trickier, is we want them to shoot a bullet. It's got to move faster than them, and it's going to move down the screen. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to use the step event. So add an event. Again, step. And this is going to allow them to shoot bullets from the front. So we need to get our bullet as a sprite and an object, and then we can start using it. Okay, we've made an object and sprite in our enemy missile. We need to make it solid because it's going to be in collisions, and that's all we need to do at the moment. So, come back to our enemy and step. So what do we need to do on this step? Okay, what we need to do, I'm just going to make this a bit smaller so we can fit it all in. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to, we want to create an object, and we wanted to create a enemy missile, and we want it to start in the plane. We're going to do 25 will be X, and let's do 50 as Y. Now sometimes you have to do this a few times before you get it right. We want it relative because we want it this position relative to the enemy spaceship. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want it to a speed of it, where are we, is our set speed. We want it to be vertical, and we want it to be 3, so it's traveling faster than the actual spaceship. Alright, now if we do this, it should then mean that these are appearing at the front of our enemy missiles. One thing to remember is when you set the speed, make sure you indicate what you're setting the speed of. In this case, it's the object enemy. Alright, let's run ours and see what happens. Okay, you can see that it's working here, but we're getting lots and lots of them. The problem is that it's just creating them 15 a second, so we're getting a massive amount. So we need to be able to make sure that we've got a count. And so what we'll do is okay, so we've set up, what we've done is we've got because it was producing too many of the missiles, we've got an instance count, which means it will count how many missiles are on the screen, so we don't get masses of them. We also want to, and so what we've done is we've got the object enemy missile count. Put that into underscore num miss, and then underscore num miss, as long as it's less than 5, create instance of the object enemy missile and set the speed to 3. So that will then allow it to happen. Okay, what isn't happening though is when our enemy gets to the bottom of the screen, it isn't restarting. So how do we do that? Okay, that's when we need to add some more into our lines. So what we do here is we can add in, scroll down a little bit, and then we can do another test. So we need to get the instance count of the number. No, we don't. We need to get an instance variable rather of where the enemy spaceship is sitting. Now we can do that a number of ways. One of them is out of room. So we go to other, outside room. In other words, has our enemy fighter gone outside the room? If it has, then what we want to do is first of all destroy the instance of itself. Yes. And then we want to create some more, but we want to make sure that we're not creating too many. Otherwise, we're going to have thousands of enemy spaceships at the top. So again, we look for instance count. We're looking for, this time, our object enemy, and we're going to call that underscore num enemy. Why do I use different variable names? Is because then it doesn't get confused. The program doesn't get confused if we use the same variable for all this stuff. It's going to get confused. So we set num enemy and we set it as temporary, so it only lasts a little bit. We get our test of our variable. If our underscore num enemy is, and we only want 3, so we want to be less than 3, don't we? Less than 4. So that means there's only 3 on the screen. No, less than 3, so there's only 3 on the screen at one time. Then what we want it to do, we want it to create an instance. And what will that be? That will be an instance of our enemy. We want it at the top of the room random, so RAN picks up our random room width. Everything else is there, and the other thing we need to do is just add the speed. Vertical 2. Okay, and that will then cycle our enemy spaceships. Now, one other thing that we've not got a problem with is that our bullets aren't starting again because they're getting to the room and then they're not outside the room and then not disappearing. So how do we deal with that? Okay, this is how we deal with that. We go to Object Enemy Missile, open Properties, and the event will be outside the room. Where are the other outside room, and we want to destroy the instance of our missiles. So that means as they go out of the room, they get destroyed, they're not counted anymore. So finally, if we run it, we'll see how we go. Okay, and now we see we've got our machines. And they're continuing to shoot missiles one at a time. Perfect.